What's up there, taters? Guess who's back? This is Tree with my special guest, Mr. Jared Taylor. Hi, Mr. Taylor. How are you doing?
I am doing just fine. I am flourishing, and it looks like you are too with that fancy new hat of yours.
Thank you so much. I wore it specifically for you in our interview today. I want to look all snazzy and cowboyish, cowgirlish. I don't want to misgender myself.
No. Couldn't do that. I don't think anybody be confused in your case.
No, not at all. Not at all. So this is our third time having a discussion today. People love it. I'm not even active on this channel. I got two other channels I'm very active on, but I don't really, when I do videos with you, people share them and they get high views. I don't even really do much promoting, but this one is, I got a funny feeling that people are going to love this conversation between you and I.
Well, that's quite a buildup. I have to live up to that. Yeah.
So how you been and what's going on with you?
Oh, I really am just doing fine. I think maybe social isolation and social distancing just suits me fine. No, I'm still making videos and podcasts and writing articles and having a great time. And as you know, I used to be banned from Europe, and I'm cooking up ideas of going back to Europe and giving some talks. And we had a great conference last year. The one before that was squashed because of COVID. And I feel as though, we're really back in action in a good way and a big way. And this is going to be a great year.
Great. Awesome. Yeah. So, down here in Georgia, we didn't really have a lot of restrictions. So a lot of people are like, this is our new normal. I was like, what? We find out we's free down here in Georgia, you know?
That's right. And, you know, I think some of the stuff you've been doing is great. I was just watching that video you did about that hate crime hoax with the black guy who had a body shop. That was one of the funniest things. Boy, oh boy, I was laughing out loud.
I am so shocked that YouTube actually have that in a recommendation for some reason, because I was really, like I said, remember we was talking off the camera. I said, I am more edgy than you ever could be. And yet and still they deplatformed you. I'm not saying I want them to deplatform me, but if you saw that video, you could tell that I crossed some lines in a way. I guess maybe that's that black privilege I have or something like that.
Well, you made such fun of those people in the funniest possible way. You have a real genius for mockery. And I think being mocked and made a fool of is what hurts people the most.
But they
and you have a real talent for it. You have a real talent for that.
Thank you. Yeah, but YouTube hates it. They hate when you mock the protected class.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Stay on. Yes, that's important.
So I am subscribed to your BitChute. I get notifications, and sometimes I don't always get a chance to watch all your videos, but I do get a chance to watch some of your videos, and I love them. So I wanted to see if we can talk about a couple of subjects, and one being one of the videos you have not recently done, you did last year. But before we get to that, I want to talk to you in reference to getting your opinion on what to do in reference to white children that are actually being indoctrinated with CRT or with the whiteness thing, and making them feel guilty for who they are. I have 4 godchildren, and the oldest 2, which is 12 and 10, I was a concern. Their parents were, but I was concerned as well. But I was more concerned because they were falling into the culture. The oldest one, the 12-year-old one, we didn't know this, but he would change clothes, or he would wear his pants half down off his butt.
Gosh.
Yeah. And because he wanted to be cool with his friends. And then when we start talking, like we were just having a conversation, and then he was begin to say oh, well, Black people are oppressed, and you know, we have to understand white people need to, you know, help Black people more. And I'm like, the way I looked at him like, what? And we had to have a heart-to-heart conversation, constantly screening the things that they go through. However, I didn't mention this to you. What also helped with him, and now I don't want any other white children to go through this, but one of his Black friends betrayed him because when they were together, they were singing a rap song and it had the nigger word in there. And his Black friend had no problem my godson saying that word because it was part of the lyrics. Well,
Yes.
A week later, that he got beat up because his Black friend told his other Black friends, and so they went and jumped him. And so when I was there to with him in the hospital, we was going to pick him up. I said, I hope, because his parents wanted them to talk to the police. I said, no. I said, snitches get stitches. I said, if he's going to be I said, this is part of the community that you want to be so friends with. I said, let me tell you something. If I said, and I'm saying this as a Black woman, you got to listen to me. When it comes to tribalism, they will always pick themselves over you every time. So you got to think twice about who your friends are going to be. Long story short, they're no longer friends. And I think that was a wake-up call he needed. And no more pants hanging off his butt, no more, you know, using slang. And now he understands that there's no such thing as that. We as Black people are not victims. We are not oppressed, and we damn sure are not helpless. And so, what do you suggest that how parents can handle the indoctrination of white children for feeling guilty for being white?
Well, it's a huge problem, and it sounds as though you did this young fellow a power of good. And of course, the message is going to be that much more powerful coming from you.
Yeah.
If you, as a Black person, says, look, all the stuff these people are telling you, it is nonsense. It's going to have much more effect than some old white guy like me saying the same thing. Now, I'm the father of 2 white children. So I faced this very problem. Yeah. And white children, all children, they are hugely conformist. They want to fit in. That is what they want that most. They want to be like all the cool kids, and whatever the cool kids do and say, even if it's the most ridiculous, absurd, stupid thing in the world, they want to do it because that's cool.
Yes.
Now, so I would quietly and gently nudge my children in a sensible direction. And they were in school before all of this CRT took over, but they still got all of these same messages.
Really?
Well, in a subtler way.
Okay.
They wouldn't make white children stand up and say, list your privileges or any of that kind of crazy stuff they're doing now.
Yeah.
But the idea that white people are really the big problem in America, and if it weren't for white people, all the brown people and the Black people and the other people would just be holding hands. It would be paradise and heaven on earth without us wicked white people. They did get that message, and so it was important for me to try to counter it. Now, one thing that I did, and I don't know what your viewers will think about this, but with both of my children, I deliberately got lost, took the wrong exit off of the freeway in Anacostia. Now, Anacostia.
I grew up there.
You grew up in Anacostia?
That's a very dangerous area. Yes,
it is.
That was one of the most dangerous ghettos I grew, and I got out of there. But I ran away. I'll tell you about that. Good for you. Because that's gonna lead into our last discussion. But yeah, Anacostia.
Well, then you know all about Anacostia. Well, you can imagine I'm driving through Anacostia in the summertime. I made sure to do it in the summertime. And the Anacostions are all out on their porches, hollering across the street at each other. And I would drive slowly around the block. Oh, gosh, I'm lost. I make sure that they get a good big eye full of this.
I'm so scared for you.
I remember one of my daughters saying, "Daddy, why don't I like this place?" So that was part of their education, and just a little bit of nudging here and there, and they went off in a generally sensible direction.
Okay.
Now, yes, but it's a very hard thing to do, and a lot of white people who are conscious of what's going on and just how bad the propaganda is, and who have the means and the family situation that permits it, they will homeschool their children.
Yes.
And that way. Now, one thing that I did when my children were growing up, I never let them watch television.
Okay.
We could watch videos. We would get videos and we would watch them. And I would make sure that they were videos that were not completely crazy, although it's hard always to know. They're always slipping crazy messages.
Oh yeah,
into
you got to
videos,
watch
movies.
it. You got to watch it all the way through. That's what we do. They got parental controls over the phones and the televisions and the computers, and we have to sit through Netflix and Hulu, and it's like, holy smokes, it's a lot of hard work.
It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work. But in the case of my younger daughter, I did something a little bit strange. I wish I thought of this with my older daughter. I spoke only French, and I continue to speak only French with my younger daughter. And so we would watch only French videos or videos that had a French soundtrack.
Yes.
And the French were not nearly as brainwashed about this kind of stuff as we are. And we would read French books, and so that was part of it. But still, the message they get at school, and this was, in their case, they don't go to an utterly crazy public school, but it was a public school, and it has gotten crazier and crazier. The public school district they went to, it's Fairfax County in Northern Virginia.
Okay.
They about a year ago, they paid your good friend and mine, Ibram Kendi, $20,000 for a 30-minute Zoom session.
Are you serious?
I am serious. I am serious. Now, this made a big stink, too. They got that kind of money to pay for half an hour for this charlatan, and a lot of the parents were up in arms about that. But that's the direction. That's the direction the school district is going. It was not quite as bad when my children were there, but I tell you, it's one of the wokest school districts in Virginia now. But so that's why a lot of people say, "The heck with this," and private schools are often just as bad.
Yes.
And there've even been some fairly famous people officially pulling their children out of these $50,000, $60,000 a year private schools, saying, "I am not paying this kind of money for you to teach my 12-year-old boy that he is a wicked white supremacist."
Right.
So it's a problem. Now, as you probably know, I think that eventually what's going to happen, and it is in the process of happening now, white people who are tired of being blamed for everything that's ever gone wrong for anybody else in the entire history of the world, ever since there were white people, they are building their own communities.
Good.
And eventually, yes, they are sharing homeschooling responsibilities.
Yes.
And I think eventually what is going to happen is that there'll be enough of them so that they will elect the city council and they'll elect the school board, and they'll say, okay, the state requires that we teach about Martin Luther King. Hey, we got things to teach about Martin Luther King. All right, don't you worry. We'll cover that segment just fine. So I think this can be done, but it is really important for children for the very reason that you state, because they get one message constantly, and it comes from every direction, at least outside the family, and they are, as I say, they want to fit in. They're terribly conformist. They don't want to be the only one who says, "Teacher, Mrs. Brown, that's baloney. I know different." Very few children are prepared to take that kind of stance in class. So,
why are white people that way?
That is the great question. I remember I was friends with a fellow named John Brock, you probably don't know about him. This must have been 15, 20 years ago. He was a black separatist, and he generally did not like white people, but he liked me because I was honest, and we would have very straightforward questions. We'd have these long telephone conversations. And I remember at one point he said, I'm all for it, but why are white people committing suicide?
Yeah.
He could see it. He could see it, but most white people, they are smiling and singing as they walk off the cliff. And why that is, I mean, there are a whole host of reasons that you could go into. I'm not sure. I've done that on a number of different occasions. I mean, beginning with just the terrible, terrible consequences of 2 world wars, practically back to back. That left white people wondering, what on earth did we unleash? What kind of people are we to have done this? And there are a number of other things that people point to, but I don't have a good answer. Why is it that it is so easy to hoodwink white people into thinking that it's their fault when everything goes wrong for everybody else? It's just incredible. Nobody else is like that. We are unique that way.
I was looking at a press conference. It was in Minnesota. It was in reference to a no-knock warrant. I forget the guy that they shot and killed, but he pulled a gun. You could see the webcam, the body camera from the police officer, clear as day. He's underneath a blanket. He takes the gun and he points it at the police officer, and the police officer beside him shoots him and kills him, right? So the police chief, who's a woman, and then, of course, the mayor, who's a white male, they are talking, and this big old black woman comes up there and just takes over the press conference and berates them, and they stand there and take it. They don't speak up. They don't talk. I mean, she's cursing and pointing and telling them that you need to do your job. I don't know. And I'm saying to myself, saying, holy smokes, man, I'm glad I'm not white, because there's no way I would have let that woman talk to me any kind of way.
These days, if a white person, especially a white man, puts some completely rude, out of place black person in her place, you know who's going to get blamed. That is the atmosphere in which we live.
When do white people get? I know you don't have an answer to this. I mean, look forward to the day when white people don't care about being called racist, white supremacists. I'd be glad when they don't care about the optics to the left and defend themselves.
You know, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it will happen. And there are more and more people who are waking up to just how utterly crazy it is. I mean, the whole idea of the civil rights movement back in the 1950s, 1960s is that everybody is just going to completely dismantle racial consciousness. We're all going to be Americans in this together. And a lot of white people, I think the vast majority of white people, really seriously tried to do that. Whereas the more they dismantled any sense of we're white people and we got rights and we got to do this, the more black people built up this black consciousness and black this and a chip on their shoulder wherever we go. And now white people are being told, no, it's not good enough to just say everybody's American. That's colorblind racism. That's no good too. You white people, you have got to spend your entire lives fighting against your inner demons. And until you transform yourself, that's the only way that we poor persecuted black people are going to be able to get ahead. Now, that's a weird message to be telling white people, especially when most of them never in their lives have done anything to really persecute or be mean to black people. Most of them go out of their way to be nice to black people. This stuff is nuts. And so they begin to think, what the hell? And eventually they find people like me, and there are more and more websites who are going to tell them, look, this is complete baloney. And there are all sorts of other ways to look at this, which we can go into later. So despite the fact that the internet is trying to make people like me invisible and impossible to find. And again, you are taking very important evasive action to keep those people off your tail. People are finding us. And we get
yeah.
more and more visitors. We get more donations all the time. People are waking up. Now, how this is going to work out in the long run, I do not know. But when enough people change their minds, the society is going to change in big and exciting ways.
You know who I want to blame for the state of the censorship, right? You know who I want to blame for this, right?
Well, I don't. So tell me.
Who did you give when I asked you to rank somebody, you gave them, I think, a B minus?
Oh.
Yeah, I blame Trump for this because Trump had every opportunity to do something, and all he did was, come over to the White House. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Then he decided that he wants to do something when he get massively deplatformed, which, by the way, I was like, good. I'm glad he got a chance to see how we felt, saying,
Yes.
how it felt for us. Cause you're banned off of Twitter. I'm banned off of Twitter. I'm banned off of Twitch. I mean, I don't know how long I'm banned off of Twitch. They don't let me know unless all of a sudden I'm back on there. But I'm problematic on Twitch. But I'm like, and I get a lot of I get a lot of things done to me. But we had asked Trump to do something in 2017 because we started when he won. That's when I got my first strike ever in December for reporting on the trucker piece that went into the Christmas festival in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it's for hate speech. Okay. And I was like, and everybody who was very pro-Trump was begging Trump to do something. And he was just talking and doing no action. And then all of a sudden, when he gets deplatformed, now he wants to do something.
I remember two things specifically about Donald Trump. He said, you got deplatformed? You just got to be better. Do you remember that? You just got to be better.
What? When did he say that?
Yes, he said that. I can't remember at what point. He said, people being deplatformed, hey, you just got to be better. And then the other was he had this White House conference about cancellation.
I remember that. Two of them, though.
Yeah.
He did it twice.
Did he do it twice?
Yep.
And not one of the people invited had been canceled.
Exactly. Yeah. He invited everybody up there who did not get canceled, but he did it twice. And that's why I looked and said, this man is so I as you can see, I got off the Trump train. I was very pro-Trump, but he did so many things that made me angry. Don't get me wrong. When he runs in 2024, he's definitely going to win. He's not going to get my vote because I don't want my vote to be counted as a black vote. I'm tired of him bragging about how many black people vote for him. So I vote for everybody, but because with the last 2020, I didn't vote for him. I put Donald Duck down there. But I don't want my vote to be a black vote. I'm tired of him doing the identity politics. So I went down the line for everybody else but him.
Well, we'll see. Even before he was elected, and all the people who are even mildly dissident about America were expecting great things from him, I could tell this guy is really not serious about anything. I don't think that he is systematically thought about anything but maybe New York City real estate and getting laid. That seems to be the only thing that he has any real expertise in. I don't think he has ever thought in his life seriously about the demographic future of the United States or racial differences or any of this kind of thing. He's just got funny instincts, or generally good instincts, and he blunders around, and he's got this idea that maybe Muslims don't make such good American citizens, and that there's certain Mexicans who aren't very good, but there are others who are plenty good, and we're going to build this big hole in the wall. It's going to have a great big door, and there's going to be a nice wall, but it's going to have a big door and let in more immigrants than ever. He's confused. He doesn't think systematically about anything.
Oh God! gosh.
But anyway, he was a whole lot better than Hillary. That we can say.
Oh,
Compared
no,
to Hillary,
I'd rather have Trump than Hillary.
Yes.
I just, I don't regret him winning in 2016, but I did not expect him to be anti-Second Amendment. I did not expect him to sign the omnibus bill. There's a lot of stuff I did not expect him to do, and it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, since I will probably vote for him if he is a candidate. I voted for him twice for president, and I really wish we had somebody with a more level head and just was a more serious, less goofball, vulgar person than Donald Trump, who had at least a clearer idea of the implications of some of the things that he would say. I wish we had such a person, but I don't see anybody out there who I would describe in those terms. So we'll see. Yeah. And it's,
what do you think about DeSantis? I mean, we understand he's not going to run against Trump for the presidency in 2024, but people are thinking that he's going to that Trump's going to have DeSantis as the vice president. But I really like DeSantis, but I'm afraid that when you like someone, they end up disappointing you once they get into that Oval Office.
They so often do, don't they?
Yeah,
that's really just the story of conservatism.
Yeah.
The conservatives will talk a reasonably good game when they want your vote. And then once they're in power, then all they care about is what the New York Times, the Washington Post write about them. And it's just absolutely pathetic the way they sell out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The fact is, at the national level, I wouldn't want to say that I've given up, but I think that the real hope is going to be at a more local level.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I've been saying the same thing. The state level. Yeah, absolutely.
There's a fellow named Neil Kumar. He is running for Congress in Arkansas. And he, of course, has said all the things that has made the Republican Party angry at him. And he's running in the primary in a district in which when the Republican wins the primary, he's pretty much going to breeze on in because Democrats just don't stand a chance. So he's going to be running in the primary, but because he has said the sorts of sensible things that you say and that I say, all the Republicans say, oh, this guy's no good. But it's this kind of thing. And he's a smart fellow. He presents himself well. His arguments are intelligent. And I think that people like that are going to break out, and it's going to happen. It's absolutely bound to happen. Now, it doesn't have to be Congress. It can be the State House. It can even be city council. It can be school board. These things are going to happen. And I think one thing is that people who are fed up with the way the United States is going today, they should not be completely fed up on politics. They should realize that even if it's a small office, it is a podium, it's a certain amount of power, and you can change things. And I think more people are moving in that direction. So we'll just have to see. But
so you think there's hope for westernized countries, and especially our country here in America?
I think there's hope for a kind of localism.
Okay.
It's impossible for me to imagine the federal government changing in a way that would really be racially and nationally healthy.
Okay.
I just don't see that happen.
Okay.
But locally, I think it's possible.
Okay. What do you think about people saying we should secede, we should separate, have Republican states separate from Democratic state? I don't see it happening, but I was just wondering, want to know your opinion on that.
I think it'd be great if it happened. I think it'd be wonderful if it happened. My ancestors were all secessionists, all the way back to the Revolution. I mean, that was a successful secession. And then my Confederate ancestors, they were secessionists. That didn't quite work. But the whole idea was, look, we just want to go our own way. Now, there's something called the Greater Idaho Movement. I'm not sure if you've been following that.
No, I don't know that. Yeah.
Well,
tell me about it.
They're actually making a certain amount of progress. What they've done is they have drawn a kind of imaginary state line, so giving Idaho actually access to the Pacific Ocean, taking a few counties of Washington State and of Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And the parts of Oregon and Washington State that they would attach to Idaho are very, very conservative. And those places do not at all like being run by Seattle, which is full of crazies, and
Yes.
by Portland, which is full of even worse crazies. And they would much rather be part of Idaho. Now, this is something that could happen simply at the state level. If you got two state legislatures that say, okay, I'm going to trade you this county for that county, that can be done. It doesn't have to, yes, it does not have to go all the way up to the feds at all. And you would think, I mean, this would be a real tough sell, but all the people in the state capitals in Oregon and in Washington who are so contemptuous of Trump supporters, you'd think they'd say, we're happy to see you go. But I think deep down they realize somebody has got to make the sewer system work. Somebody's got to be able to fix your car. Somebody's got to string the power lines. So, these horrible white rednecks, we maybe better keep a few of them. but be that as it may, no, that's been doing pretty well. They've had these votes in these various counties that want to break away from Oregon and Washington, and they passed by 60%, 65%, and they're really steadily chipping away at this idea, and maybe it could work. I don't know. But any secession, any attempt to break up this monolith on whatever lines, believe me, I would support it. Even, I mean, this may sound heretical, but even if the Aztlan movement, remember those guys? They were going to build the bronze continent. They were these Mexican Americans who said, oh, this is all stolen from our ancestors and we want it back. If they want to break up.
When was that? Hold on, I should remember that, shouldn't I?
Well, yes, this was in the 70s and 80s. They were particularly powerful. They had something called MECHA that stood for Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Aztlan. The
Very
Chicano
good.
Aztlan
You speak Spanish.
Yes. Well, I can fake it. But and they had a group called the Brown Berets that were very radical, and they were going to show those honkies, and they were going to beat them up whenever they had the chance, and they were going to build this Chicano America. They kind of faded away. I'm not quite sure what happened to them, but they, even those guys. Anybody who wants to go his own way, I'm in favor of that, because I think ultimately what's going to have to happen is that if white people really do wake up and say, look, we are no longer going to be the whipping boy of your society. And there may be we may be a minority of us, but please just let us go our own way. This idea of going your own way, that is the essence of freedom. That is the kind of freedom of association I think is important. And if they can do it in Greater Idaho, which they may be able to do, or, there's a secession movement in New Hampshire. I don't know if that will succeed, but any of these ideas of breaking up this monolith so that people who feel and act and think the same way can organize a society that reflects those views.
Yeah,
I think that's essential to a successful society. We're just too heterogeneous. The idea that diversity is our strength. Pooey, diversity is a terrible weakness. We've got so many people pulling in so many different directions that we can't get anything done. We can't, and people are more and more suspicious of each other. Homogeneity is our strength, and we should work in that direction. So who knows? I'm all in favor of secession.
Yeah, I like I was telling you earlier, we didn't have a mass vaccine mandate, mass mandate down here. Our Governor Kemp, I know Trump don't like him, but I love him, and I will vote for him again. He actually took care of us and made sure that our economy was great and that we were able to do what we want and just take our health in our own hand. And DeSantis, of course, did it, and Kristi Noem also helped with South Dakota. The thing about it is that these liberals, Democrats, commies, progressives leave their messed up cities, their blue states, and they come and infiltrate our red states. And the thing about it is that this may sound extreme, but this is how I feel, is that if we do secede, I think that these people should be treated like immigrants. If you live in New York and you come to Georgia or Florida, then you're going to have to get a green card. You can't vote in our state, stuff like that, because we can't trust you. You're not going to turn our place into a shithole too. You know?
Well, that you would be able to do only if you had real, actual sovereignty.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a tough thing to arrange. But
Yeah.
I don't rule that out either. I really do not rule that out. At some point, you may have enough local autonomy to be able to say, no, we're not just going to take any silly New Yorker or person from Massachusetts who wants to enjoy our nice little conservative hideaway.
Yeah.
That you may be able to say no. At this point, you cannot say to a U.S. citizen, no, you can't live here.
Right.
But of course, in some ways, the people who, I think in general, the people who are going to want to go to those areas are going to want to go to them because that's the way they are. The way remember Barack Obama talked about people clinging to their guns and their Bibles and he talked about as if they were these inbred lunatic white people out there in the South. He's not going to want to live with them. He's going to want to stay with all these fancy liberal white folks in, Nantucket, where he's got this place, or Martha's Vineyard.
In Hawaii, yeah.
Oh, he's going to get another estate in Hawaii. How many estates does that boy need?
Yeah. You must haven't heard. The Hawaiians are very angry with him because he has another place in Hawaii and he's building up this huge wall that is messing with the land there, and they're very angry with him right now because his mansion is basically causing some property damage because he wants a big wall in this mansion in Hawaii now that he has.
Yes, he's a real great representation of the people. Yeah. But no, he is not going to want to move in. That's one of the things. Sometimes we dissidents get together and talk about the kind of communities we could build. And one of the great fears is, well, gosh, what if some wrecker liberal wants to move in? They're not going to want to move in. They're going to be terrified. They're going to think that we're all primitive cluxers, and I'm going to stab them to death in their sleep or burn their houses down. Don't worry, they're not going to come. I think that's true.
Yeah, actually, that is true. I can only vouch for a couple of areas in Florida, and the only reason there are 95% majority conservative and Trump supporters is because they got pro-Trump and Confederate flags all in the neighborhood, and they just put the Confederate flag up there as a deterrent. And when the real estate agents show them around, they're like, "Oh my God, is that a Confederate flag? Oh, is that a Trump sign? Oh no, we got to get out of here. We don't want to be here."
That's right. That's like the sign of the cross of the empire. I remember there was somebody who had a Swedish flag hanging out in front of her
and they thought it was
breakfast.
Yeah, they thought it was a Nazi flag.
No, they thought it was a Confederate flag because it's red and white, and it's got a cross on it.
Okay,
oh my gosh,
that's right. They thought it was a Confederate flag.
They had to take that down. Their sensibilities are just so tender.
Right.
Even something that could be imagined to be a Confederate flag was too much fun. Yeah.
I hate that NASCAR bent the knee, and NASCAR, we lost the NASCAR to the liberals, though.
That's right. That's right.
And that's unfortunate.
Every institution seems to go that way. All the mainstream churches, even the Catholic churches, they want to fly the homo flag, and the Pope was going to have Syrian refugees living in the Vatican. I never heard how that turned out, by the way. Remember that? 2015, all these Syrians were coming.
I remember. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He says, I'll take half a dozen. I never heard what happened to them. I wonder if it was a happy ending. What do you think? No, it's nuts. But as I say, more and more people are waking up. And although I must say, I have misjudged the situation many times. I've thought to myself, they cannot get crazier than this. But white people get crazier and crazier and crazier. And I'm saying it now. They can't get crazier than this, but then they get even crazier. So we'll see.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Mhm.
I just I sit back and I just shake my head and I go, oh, this too will pass. I don't know when, but hopefully it will. Whatever.
It will for sure. Now, one thing that does encourage me is what's happening in Eastern Europe. There, it's a kind of a race against time. I was going to go to Estonia to take part in their National Day celebrations. And the Estonians have some really solid people who have actually been in government. And they are not at all interested in going multiculti. They know that is a very bad idea. And they have, on their National Independence Day, they have this marvelous torchlight parade.
Yeah, Poland does that too.
Yes. And I've taken part in an Estonian torchlight parade and a Lithuanian torchlight parade. I tell you, it is very emotional. All these people marching, singing patriotic songs. Oh, it brings tears to my eyes. It's just moving to see this fellow feeling, the sense of nationalism, this feeling of we're in it together. This is our place. We love it. Oh, it's just wonderful. But for a number of reasons, I couldn't take part, but I will be taking part. Now, you can't ban me for taking part by video. So
I'm so nervous when you start talking because I don't want them to stop you. You know what I'm saying?
No, they're not going to stop me. They can't come pull the plug. Well, I guess they could. They can pull the plug on my internet right before I'm supposed to take part. But no, we're going to have a video conference, and mostly it's sort of a hybrid conference anyway. Half the people are going to be there, half the people are going to be communicating by internet. It's going to be a great time. But but at the same time, it's sort of a race against time because those countries are not as wealthy as the Western European countries. And the Western European countries are always beaming in BBC and all of these poisons. And they tell them, oh, it's so wonderful to be like us. And so there's a real battle going on. But at least in Hungary, for example, and in Poland, and the Slovaks, the Czechs,
there you go. Yeah.
Most of them are really holding firm. They say, no, we like being us. No thanks. Remember when Angela Merkel was telling the Hungarians and the Slovaks and the Poles, look, we've taken our 1.5 million for Syrians, so you get your share too. And
they're like, no, thank you.
Angela, baby, you keep them. You love them, you keep them. Not for us. It's great. And, how boneheaded do you have to be not to realize that, as you say, when they have these Muslims driving their trucks into Christmas markets and celebrations in Germany, and Viktor Orban in Hungary says, we don't have that problem.
No.
Do we want that problem?
No,
thanks. Yes, it's obvious.
Yeah.
But
very obvious.
Anyway.
So listen, this is a topic I'm so excited to talk to you about. I got a notification about your video. I just so happened to have nothing to do, which is rare. I just want you to know.
I can't imagine it, Tree. You had nothing to do.
I think I had 4 hours to do absolutely nothing, and I got the notification and by BitChute. So I was like, "Oh, Mr. Taylor got a new video. Let me go over there and check it." And the video is called "It's More Than IQ," right? Let me make sure.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think that is what it's called. It's More Than IQ. I got all these notes here, but I'm like, anyway. So I hold on, let me make sure. So I watched it and I was like, what? And I emailed you right after that. I was like, holy smokes, I got to get you on my show again. I said, I would love for us to talk about this. Now, let me tell you why, because I wanted to ask a personal question on my own. Like, I took a lot of notes in there in reference to the book that you were referring to from Professor Richard Lynn on a book called Race Differences and Psychopathic Personalities. I found that very interesting. And and it was referenced. You was also, and thank you so much for putting this on your website, because I was like, I need the notes to this. But you was talking about the probability that of women be on welfare, and so you did the uncontrolled in reference to IQ, and then you did the control of IQ with an average of 100, and then you did that with welfare and also single mothers or having children out of wedlock. And I found this to be fascinating, and dealing with the psychopathic traits. Because when I think about, so here's the first one I wanted to ask you if you could elaborate on it. When I think about psychopaths, I think about very intelligent geniuses who just have no, like your serial killers that they glorify in the movies, but that when I started to do some research, it's more nuanced than that.
Well, that's right. Psychopathic personality, it's on a spectrum. People are beginning to realize that practically all personality traits, whether it's autism, for example, or intelligence, or gregariousness, they're all on a kind of a bell curve. And most people are sort of clustered in the middle, but you go off into these extremes. Now, these are things that can vary independently from intelligence. Now, sometimes they are correlated with intelligence, but they are not tracking it perfectly. So you can have not a very high IQ, but have a psychopathic personality. And I think the best definition of psychopathic personality is having utterly no conscience at all. Now that is really the extreme. And again, it's all a matter of degree. Some people are very much that way. Some people are slightly that way. And so if you really don't care about other people, the pain of other people, most of us, if we see someone suffering, we don't like that. There's something deep in us that finds that horrible. But there are people who absolutely don't care and who absolutely enjoy it. And those people are going to take advantage of others in the most brutal, conscienceless ways. Now, that's one aspect of personality, but there are other aspects of the ability to defer gratification. People who can plan ahead, people who can sacrifice a certain amount of pleasure now for something that's more important in the future. And an obvious example would be, instead of going to that party, you're going to study so that you're going to do well in an exam. Right. You're going to defer the pleasure of going to that party. That was from the
marshmallow test, yeah?
That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. The classic marshmallow test is you give say a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old, you take some child and you give him a marshmallow and you say, you got a choice. You can eat that marshmallow right now, or if you could just sit there and stare at that marshmallow and succeed in not eating it, I'm going to give you, for 10 minutes, I'm going to give you 2 marshmallows. And there are consistent racial differences in who is willing to defer gratification, who is prepared to wait, not gobble up that marshmallow right now in the hope of being able to gobble up 2 marshmallows if I show a certain amount of self-control.
Yeah.
And yes. And so that's yet another, the ability to defer gratification. Also, there's a personality test that tests the big 5 personality tests, and one of which is agreeableness. And there are racial differences in the general outcome of the way people's personalities, on average, shake out on those various personality scores too. So IQ is not the only trait on which there are average differences from group to group. It happens to be the one that has been the most seriously and extensively studied. People have been studying intelligence and trying to measure it, trying to improve it, trying to figure out what goes into it, what the components of intelligence are. People have been trying to do that for over 100 years. And it is more recent that people have been looking into this kind of consciencelessness or agreeableness or the ability to defer gratification. And so that's why if you have, say, 2 different groups and they have the same SAT scores actually overpredict college performance for blacks than for whites. In other words, blacks do not score as well in college as you would expect given their SAT scores, and it may be because they are less willing to defer gratification. They may be as smart as the white guy, but they're not going to work as hard, and they are going to have fun.
To study at the last minute, go to the club. Okay.
Yes.
Actually, that was what that's. I was like, that happened in my college, actually. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, we were all wanted to get together for the study hall, and it was just a small group of us, but everybody else were going to the parties, or they went on to the club that was down the street that had ladies' night. And it was so fascinating to look at this thing and see. I think this is the reason why I've always liked your teaching, because it made me understand my environment more. Did that make sense? It made me understand why things were the way they are.
Yes. And, in that respect, Asians do not score at the same as whites. Asians have higher average IQs, and they are also more willing than whites to defer gratification.
Yes.
I remember once one of my daughters, she had this big biology test coming up, and she was at the night before, and she was just goofing around doing something. I can't remember what. And I said, don't you need to study? She says, Dad, I'm not Asian. No, but you need to study, damn it. No, children see this kind of thing. I mean, they're not completely stupid. So, and I thought it was really.
But when I think about the fact, so it went in order: blacks, whites, and then Asians. Okay, were the ones who actually were at the top in delaying gratification. But then I thought, well, look what's happening in China. Is that a connection there, where they're so willing to be told what to do, to put on a face like everything's great, and to be okay with signing up with the social credit score system and things like that?
I think those are separate traits. I think Chinese do naturally have an ability to defer gratification. That's why the nation has just leapt ahead the way it has. Per capita GNP, the way that's been growing like crazy, it's just extraordinary. At the end of the Second World War, you couldn't distinguish in terms of per capita GNP between China and Ghana, for heaven's sake. And now the Chinese are just going great guns. They're inventing things. Their infrastructure is remarkable. I wouldn't want to live in China for a whole host of reasons, but that is part of that intelligence, and also their ability to work for the future, think in terms of the future. But also, I think Chinese have a kind of swarm hive mentality, and they do conform. They are willing to take orders. I mean, that has been the kind of social organization they've had ever since the emperors. The mandarins up top, and they tell everybody what to do, and people pretty much do what they're supposed to do. And then it went through Mao, and then it went through these guys, Xi Jinping and the rest of them now. But there is a kind of conformity and willingness to be pushed around and kicked around. Now, I see, of course, COVID has been a great demonstration of just how willing everybody is practically to be pushed around and kicked around. All these people told, no, you can't go to church. Well, wait a minute. Don't we have the First Amendment here? Don't we have the right to go to our churches and that sort of freedom of speech too? No. A governor can say, no, you got to stay home. You got to shutter your business. You got to do this. You got to do that. Incredible. And you remember, I think, on the basis of the CDC's recommendations, all of a sudden, people who were renting had the right to stiff their landlords because this is COVID.
But the eviction moratorium, but that was started by Trump, though.
That's right. And the idea
and I thought, like, holy, and I was going to rent my house, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to let somebody stay in my house rent free under some eviction moratorium.
No, but the idea that the government can just walk right in and unilaterally
that was
rewrite.
shocking to me. Did you
Yes.
did you know that that was possible? When that happened, I was like, they can do it. It made me realize I don't own anything. But they give me
No.
this appearance that I own stuff, but I really don't.
Absolutely right. And this wasn't even a law passed by Congress. This wasn't even a presidential executive order. I think this is CDC issued this thing.
Yes.
All of a sudden, they can take millions of contracts between renters and landlords and completely rewrite them unilaterally. What kind of deal is this? But as I say, Americans, Europeans, we have all shown just how obedient whipped dogs we are when the government says, this is an emergency, you better do what we want you to do. It's quite incredible, quite incredible. Now,
doesn't it make you sad? Because I watched this. I'm naturally rebellious, so but I'm in Georgia too, so it was a lot of things that I was able to get away with, but others were not. When I looked at how people were able to just submit, it made me sad because I was like, wow.
It is very sad. It reminded me of the images I saw of New Zealand. Remember after that Brenton Tarrant guy shot up the mosques?
Yeah.
And their hoydenish prime minister lady.
Put on a hijab, right?
Yeah. Well, she says, okay, New Zealanders, you're going to all turn in your weapons.
Oh, yeah, turn in your guns. Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw these pictures.
Oh,
they did.
they did it. Oh, my goodness. Yes.
They did. These New Zealanders, they're walking in with granddad's hunting rifle and, take it, and now do I bend over? What kind of, it was just horrible. Now, I have heard from sources in New Zealand that there were a lot of guns that somehow disappeared. And they were lost on hunting trips, so they fell overboard from the canoe or whatever it was.
Oh, is that it, huh?
So they were not completely subservient serfs, but no, this ability to stand up to authority and say, "Come and get it," I ain't gonna give it to you. It seems to be glimmering away everywhere. It's really quite shameful.
Right. So I have no problem. Now this is a personal question I want to ask.
You better watch out with those.
I know. But this part of my life, people already know. My mom and dad were married and they divorced at 5. And that's when my dad moved and then my mom, because they divorced, we had to move from a nice area in DC, I think at Georgetown, we moved to Anacostia. And then that's a bad place in Anacostia. Going into that violent area, but also my mom was very abusive. I would have to say she was torture,
Oh, gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
No, it's okay. I think I'm a better person because of it. But my mom was extremely abusive, and I'm very tall because I take after the height of my dad. So at the age of 11, I don't know what it was, but I began to get taller and stronger. So my mom, I remember the day my mom had a belt and she began to beat me with the buckle. And I remember grabbing it and it shocked my mom. Now my mom had this mentality of, I brought you into this world, I'll take you out. So it was, and I remember when I wrote it down about psychopaths are also bad parents. Now I'm going with something with this because I hated my mother. I was a Christian at the time, and I would pray for God to kill her. And then I thought to myself, like, oh my God, if my mom died, because when she beat me really bad and I was bruised all over, I wanted to kill my mother, right? And so, but I looked around and I knew my siblings would be sad. I knew my auntie, who was a better mother than I was sad, would be sad. So I thought, like, no, I love them, and I said killing my mom would be bad for them. So I ran away, and my father took custody of me. Fast forward, now I did go get counseling after being a police officer. I did get years and years of counseling. However, now this is the part I want to get your insight on, because I had to give you that back information. So as a police officer, all right, we are in the ghetto. We are policing the ghetto, and I remember several situations where I was shot at. People, black men, would try to kill me, and they got killed in the process. I feel nothing. I felt nothing, and I know some. I've seen some men say when somebody did a home invasion and they shot the person that was about to shoot them, they lose sleep or they can't eat and they feel guilty. I don't understand that. Can you give me some insight on that? Was it because of my background? Was it because of my abusive upbringing, or was it the fact that I also believe, now I believe bad people, when bad things happen to bad people, I don't care. I don't like when bad things happen to good people. That's the difference.
You know, I can't claim to have much expertise on that subject, but the only person that I know who killed a man under home invasion circumstances, he was asked, many people would ask him, well, did you ever feel bad about that? He says, not at all.
Okay.
He's a perfectly normal guy. He said, no telling what that guy would have done to me or to my wife. I've never felt the slightest guilt about that. Now, I imagine that is a pretty normal state of mind. I know police officers.
So many people are like, I see so many white people saying, oh, when you take somebody's life, you're never the same. And they make me think like, I must be an animal, because I don't feel nothing if you're trying to kill me and you get killed in the process.
Yes.
Oh, well, you know?
Yes. No, the police officers that I know, of course, most police officers I know never have had to even open fire on anybody. They've had to pull their weapons, but the only officer I ever spoke to who had actually shot anybody, he took the same attitude you did. Okay. So I think that's perfectly normal. If a guy is intending to kill you, especially if it's your job, for heaven's sake. Yeah. I suppose now there may be a difference. There may be a sex difference here. There may be the differences so that women are perhaps more likely to think, oh my gosh, what did I do? You know, he might have been a good guy after all. But I think most women too, if somebody's coming at them with a knife or with a gun and they have to give him the the room temperature test, as one of my favorite YouTube guys puts it. I don't think people are going to feel bad about that. Also, I do know that the psychology of people who go to war. Now, when you're in war, you're supposed to kill the enemy. And if it is a kill or be killed situation, people do at first. They often will hesitate to maybe pull the trigger for the first time, but they very quickly get used to it. Okay. And that's just their job, and they do it, and too bad for him. Either I was going to get it or he was going to get it, and thank God he's the one who got it. So no, I don't think there's anything the least bit wrong with your reaction. Now, as a police officer, did you actually have to shoot and kill people?
Yes.
Wow. Well, good for you. I'm sure everyone deserved it.
I think so much is hence why this is why I have nothing to do with the Black community, and I will never allow anyone to tell me how oppressed Blacks are. If you want to know why I have an arsenal in this home, it's not for the white man. It has nothing to do for white people. And if you want to, growing up in Anacostia, I have seen women be sexually assaulted. I have seen dead bodies. I have seen pimps beat up on their prostitutes. I have seen women come up and just stab another woman because she cheated on them. I have seen a lot of violence, and the superpower that has come from that, which I'm proud of. I'm really good at reading people. I had to be good at reading people in order to survive, because there was a lot of things that was attempted upon me. And because I was good at reading people, I didn't become a crack addict. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do any drugs. I don't do any of that, because watching people around me high, a lot of bad things happen to them. Also, I will have to admit that my dad taught me a lot about drugs, and he also educated me about the side effects and what happens to people. He also showed me autopsy pictures of the bodies. So that kind of maybe also a reason why I don't deal with any kind of drugs. I know the consequences of that. But I like staying in my sober mind, because I don't trust society too much, or maybe I just don't trust myself. I don't know. But I like being in my sober mind. So being in Anacostia, growing up in the hood like that, I have learned to read people, and that has prevented me from being scammed, from being violated, from being victimized, and from anything bad happening to me. A lot of things that are happening to people in the adult world is happening to them, happened to me as a childhood. But also to get back to the why, in reference to the Black community, everything was done by Blacks against Blacks. And so when I hear Blacks talk about how the white man is the enemy, I just said, when, where? I know when you called the police, it wasn't on no daggone white man. You called them for somebody who's the same color as you. And I can't put up with the stupidity anymore. Well, I stopped putting up with it a long time ago.
I guess I've really been very lucky. I've lived a very sheltered life in terms of that kind of threat to me. And I suppose on the one hand, I should feel grateful. On the other hand, I feel as though that kind of experience, if you survive it, it toughens you. It gives you a certain kind of street smarts that I may not have. But good for you to have learned all the important lessons that were there to be learned, which sound like what happened to you. But, even somebody like Jesse Jackson, in a moment of weakness, he did concede that if he's walking down the street at night and he hears sounds behind him and he turns around, he's relieved. If it's a white guy. Do you know how he later tried to wriggle out of that comment?
No, how?
Somebody said, well, wait a minute. You think the brothers are more likely to jump you?
Yeah.
He said, no. What I really meant was, I know that if there are white people around, there's going to be better policing, and that's why I'm safer.
No way!
Yes. That's the way he tried to wriggle off the hook. But the thing about it is, I think ordinary Black people, not the ones that the white media pluck from the multitude and turn into leaders, these con artists, and some of them are absolute psychopaths, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Ordinary Black people understand this kind of thing. The idea of defund the police, I think if you walked into most Black neighborhoods of defund the police, what? They're the people who keep us from being they're the only people who maintain order.
The people who need the police more are Black people to protect them from others, Blacks, their own. So I don't, that whole defund the police stuff, I don't even know why they even let politicians like Cori Bush and Ian Omar get away with along with the rest of them, put up with that rhetoric of defund the police, and then crime is just going out of the roof in these blue cities.
Yes. Sometimes it seems to me that these Cori Bushes and the Ilhan Omars and Ina Presleys, they are more focused on insulting or hurting or disempowering white people than they are far more than in helping their own people. They're so blinded by something to keep Whitey on the hop. They're going to make Whitey hop, even if the people who really suffer from it are the people that should be voting for them. It's just in their own way. They're
Why
just
I think so. I think they have. Growing up, I'm sure you heard this, where a little boy had a crush on a girl, so he would take her ponytail and put it in ink. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a way of him showing affection. That's what I think. I think a lot of these people of color, I don't know why color people is racist, but people of color is not racist. But anyway, that they have this love and fascination with white people. Hence why that's all they got to talk about. The white man, the white man, the white man, the white man. Bring down whitey. Let's talk about whiteness, this, that, and the other. And I think it's that it's a way of saying, okay, I like them, but I need to get some kind of attention from them. But I'll do the negative route instead of the loving route.
Puppy love. I think there is a kind of preoccupation with whites sometimes. And one thing that does occur to me, you would expect that if we white people are as bad as all of these non-white spokesmen say we are, that they would be telling their brethren back in the home country
to stay there. Don't come over here.
Stay where it's safe. Stay where it's safe. These people are just awful. But no, they want to come and they want to snuggle up to us. They want to live in our neighborhoods and go to our schools.
Speaking of snuggling, who you think Ilhan Omar snuggled to at night in her bedroom?
Exactly right. Exactly right. One of those wicked, horrible, reprehensible white people. How could you stand it?
These people are fraudulent.
I remember reading. I read a biography of W.B. Du Bois once. He was a pretty interesting guy. And did you know that he? First of all, he had that goatee. Do you know who he modeled himself on?
Oh,
he was in Germany. Right about the time of the First World War. And the Kaiser had a goatee. And he thought, wow, that looks pretty sharp. And so he grew a goatee because he thought the Kaiser looked sharp in his goatee.
Really?
That's right. Also, he fell in love with a Dutch girl, a white girl.
Yeah.
And he decided, though, that if he was going to go, he'd already decided he was going to be a leader of black people. And he said, nope. I ain't going to be a leader of black people with a white wife.
That's right.
And so you got to hand it to him in that respect. And then I understand there's a guy, I think he's a movie maker, Tyler Perry. There's such a fellow, isn't there?
Yeah.
And he makes sort of these low budget, low grade movies that apparently black women.
You're so nice. Are you serious? Low budget. That's just trash. Okay.
Okay, but I've never seen one, so I don't know for sure.
Oh my God! The black community always talk about the minstrel show. That's nothing. What he does is that he puts on he stopped playing a woman, but he used to put on his bodysuit and play this sassy black older woman called Medea. And I was like, y'all talk about minstrel show and black folks loved it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I brought him up not because he's a great artist and will go down with the Rembrandts and the Michelangelos, but only because he did say, the one thing I must not do is go out and date white women. He says, I have an audience.
He's gay.
Oh, I mean, he hasn't makes it easy for him.
He hasn't officially come out as gay, but it's one of those
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Well, then I guess
is that what he said? He said he would not be seen with a white woman.
That's right. I guess turning his back on temptation wasn't all that difficult. No, I didn't know that about him. Well, that puts a whole new perspective on a kind of hypocrisy of it all. But anyway. Oh, well.
You know who else had a white woman before they decided to go into politics? Old boy Obama. Okay, and then they was like, you know what? You're gonna have to get rid of her, and you're gonna have to get yourself a black woman. So there's
That's
that.
right.
So,
yes.
Yeah, these people who always want to talk bad about white people are very fascinated and love to lie with them. So that's what I'm saying. I look at these people and just shake my head like, you guys are you're just liars. There's no credibility to you whatsoever. Also, another thing I notice is that the whole blackwashing of white characters, rewriting of white history, like having a black Queen Anne, you know, and I said, I don't understand this. If y'all was to take T'Challa from the Black Panther and made him an Irishman, you all would lose your mind. But if we was kings, as you all say we are, then why do you have to take the white man's hand-me-downs? Why do you have to always take his stuff? And this it goes with the Emmys too. Like you got BET, NAACP, you got several black awards. Like I don't remember all of them, but those awards don't mean anything, Mr. Taylor, unless the Emmys, the Oscars, or the Grammys acknowledge them. So I see a lot of hypocrisy where blacks talking about the white man and we want to get away from them and we don't like the colonizers, yet still you want to use the colonizers' past, you want to use their characters, and you want them to acknowledge you in their awards. And that's like, the hypocrisy is just through the roof to where I don't take any credit. I don't give them any credibility of anything that comes out their mouths.
No, it is transparent and it is contemptible. But what is ultimately more contemptible is that white people sit still for this stuff. And when Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson march into their big fancy offices and tell them, you better do this, you better do that, they say, yes, massa, and they do exactly what they're told. That is what is disgusting.
Yes.
It's incredible to me. I mean, another one is, I know Jesse Jackson was tearing all up and down Silicon Valley for a while, telling these people, all your programmers are white and Asian. That's just got to stop. And they're all saying, yeah, you're right. This is no good. You know, we need to bring along all this black talent. There's bound to be all those genius black programmers out there, especially the ladies. Not one of them has got the spine to say, look, we hire the people who can do the job. That's the long and the short of it. Now get off my property. Not one of them.
I wish they would say something like that. That would get, actually, you want to know something? Black people will respect white people more if they just stood their ground and not bend the knee, not get on their knees, all right? And just said, you know what, I'm not going to do this, and I don't care what names you call me. You either like it or you don't. And I think the reason why they apologized, like the Joe Rogan situation, like he kept apologizing, and it's too late to act big and bad now. You already showed your weakness by apologizing. And then and I didn't know the CEO of Spotify was from Sweden. So that explains why he was like, because he said he's going to make sure he allocate $100 million to artists of color.
That's right. That's right. Yep. And those artists of color, they're going to say, thank you. Is any of them going to say, look, I will accept some kind of award for being the best, but I am not going to take handouts just because I am of color. Right. Not one of them is going to say that.
Right.
And, you know, I've been thinking about this. You know, we're going to get ourselves a new Supreme Court justice, and it's going to be a woman, and it's going to be a black woman. And, you know, I have this fantasy. It's an impossible fantasy of the person who gets the nod and who says, look, I am not going to accept this insulting offer.
Never going to happen.
Never. But in effect, she's saying, okay, you have eliminated 95% of the competition. You were the best of 5%. And if I would love to hear this black lady say, look, I am not going to compete under those artificial, insulting circumstances. You take your Supreme Court justiceship and you stick it where the sun doesn't shine. Now, it will never happen. But I do have this fantasy. We can all fantasize, right?
Speaking of affirmative, I'm gonna say this, and then we're gonna come. Oh my gosh, we can talk forever, but I'm gonna respect your time because I said I wasn't gonna keep you here that long. Yes. But I'm gonna share something with you. It's an affirmative action story. I tried out for my police department SWAT team, and I failed. I failed the pull-up test. I passed the written test. Of course, I passed the health test and everything like that. And I passed the running and I passed the push-ups, but I just could not pull myself up. And I worked on it for an entire year and I passed, right? So when I passed, the chief called me and he was like, congratulations, girl. Now we can use that affirmative action and get some funding. And I was like, what? But hold on. This is what's so funny. They could have slid me in.
Yes.
And because they wanted to get the affirmative action, but because I failed, they was like, nope, we gotta wait till she passed. And I said, well, Chief, with all due respect, why y'all just didn't let me win? He was like, what, do you really want to be winning because you're black or because you're good and you qualify? You know, he always had a big old wad of tobacco in his mouth, so that's why I'm mocking him like that. And that made me feel so good that I got in there because I qualified, not because I was black. Yeah.
You know, I have never, ever heard a beneficiary of affirmative action say, you know, I've felt bad about this all my life, and did I really measure up? And this has been a kind of a drag on my self-esteem, and I wish I'd made it on my own. Have you ever heard anyone say that?
No.
They all seem to buy this.
They think they owed it. You know what I'm saying? They think they're owed it, and it doesn't matter if they qualified or they deserve it or not. It's like,
they always say, I had to work twice as hard to get half the consideration, and I was, you know, that the mayor now, he says, I was kicking those crackers' asses when I was.
Which one?
At least he felt compelled to apologize. But
Eric Adams.
Yes. Eric Adams.
You know what? I am constantly saying, told you so. Because I said, y'all going to do the same thing you did with Obama and just elected somebody because they're a black man. I said, all right. I said, y'all think Eric Adams going to save New York? I said, he ain't going to do nothing. Have you noticed his suits have been nice and clean and tailored lately? Look at what Eric Adams used to look like before he got elected, and look at how sharp and clean he looks now that he's mayor. I said,
God, that's just like Al Sharpton. Remember, he used to run around.
Exactly. It's a hustle. That's why I don't care what happens in New York. I'm like, this is what you elected, then this is what you deal with, okay? The consequences, that's what you're going to have to deal with. So there's that. But anyway, oh my God, I always have a good time talking with you.
Yes, we have a good time.
Yeah, we're going to have to do this again. And I like I said, by the way, you didn't know this, but right after I talked to you, I got a strike on this channel for an old video from 2017.
Are you kidding?
I'll show it to you. I'll email it to you so you can see. If you look at the time, a week after because remember I said, YouTube's acting crazy. I don't know if I'm gonna do it, blah blah blah, and everything. And you was like, whatever you want to do, it's on you. You know, it's no rush. A week later, I got a notice from YouTube saying that I have a strike from a 2017 video. It's an Islamic one too. It was about every video I have gotten is dealing with Islam. So I took them all down.
Well, that's probably the careful thing to do.
Yeah.
It's YouTube. YouTube is where the eyeballs are. It's where the money is if you're being monetized. As I say, we should have been more careful probably. But when it came to us, they didn't even give us strikes. All of a sudden, we were
your
poof,
channel
gone.
was gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Okay.
well, you keep fighting the good fight, Tree. And
I
you keep
will,
making
and I'm
them
going to
laugh.
have all your information underneath this video. So,
Thank you.
hold on a second because I want to make sure I got everything. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Please share this video. I already know it's going to get a lot of views. Every video that Mr. Till and I guess we're such good optics. I said we are so good optics. You know, this video is always going to get shared. But please go and subscribe to his website. And I'm going to have all the links available underneath this video. So help him out. Also, subscribe to his BitChute. You're also on Gab. Well, do you know the other places I know Gab and BitChute you're on.
Gab and BitChute are pretty much our main places, and our own website, of course. And
Okay.
we're doing fine. We're doing fine on those places. We're doing fine.
Great.
Now, of course, Google tries very hard to pretend that we don't exist. But
Yeah.
if you actually use DuckDuckGo,
DuckDuckGo.
it's surprising. Yes, you find articles. Yes, so do I. So do I.
Yeah.
So we are plugging along, and no, I wish you every success, and you keep them laughing, and you keep making fun of them and making them look like fools, and I think that is the most effective weapon you have.
Oh, and it's not hard.
It's not hard when you've got a talent for it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, guys. So we're gonna leave, and we'll bring Mr. Taylor back. I don't know when we'll do. We have to see how this video goes. And if I don't get spanked, which I don't think so. I don't think we did too bad, but
No, we were good.
we were really good. We'll definitely bring him back on. So this is Tree from treeoflogic.com. Thank you guys so much for coming by, and I'll see you all next time. Later, taters. For videos like this and more, go to my website, treeoflogic.com. That is my main platform where I stream, and I also have my own private chat. Remember, bookmark it now, treeoflogic.com. If anything happens to me here, remember, that's where you can find me.